Starr's suffering has only begun, while Jesse's may finally pay off. Cass and Tulip spend some quality time with Humperdew, and God proves that he is a terrible person. Really. It's Preacher, Season 4, Episode 8. Fear of the Lord. Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to this week's review of Preacher. So yes, of course, all the spoilers coming your way. And as always, do want to remind you about our quick jump index system. Right in the description below, we'll have the entire review codified, titleized, time-coded. Watch the end of the review in the beginning. Watch the beginning of the review at the end. Watch the review in any order you'd like. All right, so moving down to the wire. Only 2 episodes left after this, and so you know what that means. It's our final setup. We've got to get the final 2 episodes to really get the action happening and then go and wrap it up. And they did a fabulous job, I thought, of getting everything set up. Some great unexpected moments, some great Preacher off the wall moments, and definitely proving that God likes his suffering. I think that's really what we established pretty firmly, kind of in the background of this episode, is how much God loves suffering. I mean, look, when he was depressed the other week, he's watching old videos of Abraham's, ready to sacrifice his only child to God. I mean, that's some pretty hardcore suffering, messed up energy going on right there. Throughout this episode, we of course have Starr continuing to fall apart in his desire to usher the apocalypse, do God's will, and just get a little bit of his beauty back. And Jesse, of course, enjoying tons of these sufferings and tortures of hell, which almost pay off for him. And then God just goes and bites his eye out and just pushes it all even further. So God really enjoying the whole suffering idea. And I think if there was any question of that, by the end of God laughing at Jesse about the future doom of humanity, I think that pretty much sums that up clearly. So, yeah, if we're looking for a justification for everyone going after God, that's what this episode did. It set that up perfectly, because God's got a lot of enemies by the end of this episode. So let's start the suffering train off with Herr Starr, who has a faucet dick. Look, there's just no other way to frame that up. I mean, come on! Come on! It's just, that is just the beginning of what he is suffering from the back desert trio of brothers. We do get some fun insight into the younger Klaus Starr, head of the Little Mr. Dusseldorf talent competition 4 years in a row. Very old-looking child. And that, of course, is probably younger, but this is Preacher, so why not just dress Starr up in a wig and everything and show us where he was at his prime, but also where his suffering begins, because his success was not taken well by his fellow competitors, and apparently very cutthroat in the German talent competition. That seems to have been where he lost his eye. That was at least, he wakes up. I thought he was like my looks, and I thought he was going for his locks. I was like, my locks? No, that's where he first cut off his hair. But no, the knife coming in right towards the camera, and it's my looks. My eye! He pretty much just sort of says it out. But yeah, sort of the beginning of Starr's suffering. And we see where he wishes to return to the glory. But getting there, of course, a bit of a challenge. Sure, starts off with faucet dick, but that's not the worst of it, because the brothers are cannibals, of course, and they're eating his leg. Feeding it to him because he's the guest. He should get first bowl, which was just, really, it was just all sorts of wrong at the end of this scene. And then because he starts it off beautifully with like, oh, you're the first people to show me real kindness in so long. And then once he finds out, obviously anger. I am the leader of the most powerful organization in the world. Shock troops are coming our way any moment to kill you. Long dramatic pause. And yeah, look, if anybody is going to pick up a electric saw and start talking about its thigh time, it's definitely wrong. It's just the thigh, it's too close. He's already lost so much. Really. But Featherstone comes and saves his ass. Of course, it's just such a scene with Featherstone, who just feels so strongly for Starr, seeing him in such a state and just carrying off by herself. Oh, I mean, kind of, it's perfect for the relationship, but God, just that, and then when they do the time jump afterwards, and he's got the beard, he's making noise as he walks, and he can't even decide, he can't even give poor break-dancing Jesus a break. He doesn't have the power to make those choices. He can't be pretty himself. He hasn't found Humperdinck. He's a complete failure. I think that's the bottom of the barrel. Well, no, the bottom of the barrel is when he tries to hang himself. Which, again, just a beautiful Frankenstein-like shot of him drunk, handcuffs, he's got the metal leg, he's got a faucet genitalia. So wrong. But great makeup job. That looked really frighteningly real. But then he tries to hang himself, and he's got the young Mr. Dusseldorf sash on, which again is just tying all of his suffering all up together into one big moment. But no justice on that sash. Does he keep catches on his nipple rings and rips his nipples out? Come on. I mean, really, can you hit more of a bottom barrel? I don't think. No leg, no genitalia, nipples pulled off, you've lost your eye, you got a giant penis head. So I guess God appreciated. He had hit his suffering max. So that's when God is going to step out. And again, he kind of ties it all in. Oh, you haven't found him because you didn't ask. Again, all of this time, God likes to watch the suffering and then deal on their edge like, oh, the whole time you didn't have to do that. You just had to ask. It's just so wrong. Perfect for the show. Like I said, we want God in this antagonistic. So even though he's doing good for Starr and promises, get the kid, all the beauty comes back, and he does that. The fact that it has to go so far, and then he just tempts and teases the whole you could have gotten him at any time bit is just the icing on the suffering tape. It's sadism. Sadism! That's what it is. So yeah, God may be a sadist, but he is not calling on command, and he has all the time in the world, which is certainly something that Tulip and Cass found out. Ready to shoot Humperdinck in front of God. And Cass is right. He's God. He's everywhere. But Tulip's encountered the physical form before, had long talks, wants to be sure that he's right there, physically able to see it. And they sort of played with that moment cool. It was dark, it was stormy, it was very biblical in its sense. And then there's a time where the rain stops, and then it all clears up, and you're wondering if it's going to be the moment. And obviously, it's not. I mean, you say, we're going to stay here, and I think maybe Tulip gave it away right there. We're going to stay here until he shows up. Again, God's got a lot of patience. He's God. So he doesn't have to come when you call. He knows you're not going to do it. So yeah, and there was sort of a nice place to put this time jump, again, which worked for Starr's suffering. We'll jump into Jesse, of course, in a minute. But here, again, that time jump, that time much going on. And again, it works well for establishing everyone. It does a nice separation, I think, in starting of what the rest of the series was, the rest of the season, and our final little chunk. To me, this episode is setting the pieces up. And then the last two episodes are going to be like the big end run going on. But that time jump gives us our separation. Of course, again, puts all of our suffering in perspective because it allows lots of time for it to happen. Not so much, though, with Tulip and Cass, as Humperdew is just, he just emanates good. Danny said it last week. You know, he just has this thing. Cass had sort of felt it. He didn't really want to shoot Humperdew, and that sort of plays in even more. Even Tulip, I think, is questioning it through a lot of moments. Great moment, great bit with bringing in the pine cones and everything, and Mama Pine Cone and Daddy Pine Cone, and Humperdew's like, Humperdew Pine Cone! He's just so happy. There's so much joy. Which, of course, plays off in the whole kind of biblical moment of him when he gets away and he's playing with the deer and he's just touching again. He has that innocence. And, you know, godly bloodline, which, of course, adds a whole other level to that. So, I mean, they really show Humperdew and why he is so appealing and why, as a Messiah, even though he is not maybe the best genetic copy that you could have of Jesus, there is that divine joy and goodness within him. And I think it offsets very nicely with, again, God's whole love of suffering that we're seeing. Used against him, though, the whole bit, just go to the moon, and that's how you time that he runs out and gets inside of the refrigerator so that, when you blow him up, it doesn't do too much damage to the area? I think that seemed to be the plan. I was a little moment when Tulip had asked Humperdew over to look at the bomb vest, if she was doing something else. I mean, Humperdew's kind of a weird guy, and I don't ask questions, but yeah, when she reached down and we saw that she was playing with the bomb vest battery pack and everything, oddly that made me feel a little bit better. But yeah, so that's sort of kind of a cool thing. It douses Tulip's anger on this and gets to see that there is whole another side. And of course, by the end of that whole sequence, which isn't the scene of the week, almost was, we will get to that. The whole scene where Starr and Featherstone finally show up to take Humperdew back. It was just a whole beautiful scene because we're starting out in a nice little moment. We got the couple, we got the family, we are laughing at the blueberries in the hamburgers. Again, Tulip's an interesting chef. We haven't seen a lot of her creations for a couple of seasons, so this was kind of a nice moment. Seeing that maybe Humperdew does not react well to blueberries in the steak. Because again, forgot about the whole projectile vomiting machine that we've seen before. And that was perfect because it gave us a whole Monty Python-esque feel to it. It wasn't just sick. That's full-on projectile vomiting. It was just meeting a life sequence all over the place. Lovely little bit. And of course we've got them trying to fight off, slipping in the vomitus. Humperdew just so excited to be running and going to the moon. The last little bit when he's rising off and Tulip just staring. And it's like for a moment, I didn't think she was going to pull the trigger. It's like he's so happy he's there. He's finally going to the moon. They're lifting him up. They're bringing him away. But she does try to pull the switch and it doesn't work. Now that was sort of an interesting thing because it didn't work and I was wondering if perhaps Cass took the batteries out. That he really didn't want to. I mean, he didn't want to give her the trigger until she took it from him by putting an axe in his chest. So I'm not sure. So I was thinking for a moment that Cassidy just took the batteries out, didn't want her to be able to trigger it off. However, when she does that beautiful moment of collapsing against Cassidy, and she's sitting there with the axe out of him, no, it's okay. I understand why I had to do it. It's going to be pain pulling that thing out. I love Cass. The light on the trigger was on. So it seemed to have power. So potential act of God right there. He certainly wants them to show up with Jesse. So keeping him alive, keeping that moment, wants to be sure. I mean, he's God. He can stop a timer, a bomb from going off, a trigger there. So yeah, it was just kind of an interesting moment. I don't know if they're going to dive into that a little bit more, but it was something that I caught. Didn't work in his hand, but the light was on when she sat down next to Cass. So I think that might have been an act of God, quite literally. to save Humperdoo, who is God's favorite, of course. And of course, our final example of suffering does come from Mr. Jesse Custer himself. Yeah, Hell kind of steps things up, all right? The film show isn't working for you. This isn't convincing you to get on the throne and do the job. Fine, we'll stick ants up your butt. And that's just the beginning. We only get a few shots of Jesse's suffering. Ants in the butt. Very wrong. And a nasty collar with the little spikes here so you can't drop your... Just always got to keep your head up. I mean, again, just a wrong combination of elements. Of course, classic being set on fire, for sure. Stuck in a barrel with rats. Also quite unpleasant. So yeah, Hell decides to sort of step up their game on Jesse, and we're seeing this is over 3 months. So these are only a small little selection, I'm sure, of all of the tortures that Jesse was subjected to. Not all of them, though, of course, is what is the Fuhrer later on says on. Oh, there are swords, oil swords, molten magma spread on your butt, like on a cracker, like on a cream cracker. It's very British. So yeah, a lot of suffering that he's had, a lot more suffering potentially to come, but of course it's hell. They're still playing with the minds. And I did that. I love that little break scene of the saint coming to rescue Jesse, because that brought up a whole lot of interesting questions. I mean, yeah, I think that the saint wanted Jesse in order to get to God, and Jesse sort of got away, so it would make sense that that the saint would go back to hell to get Jesse if he wants to use him to get after God. But, like Jesse said, saint talked a lot. I mean, first of all, he shared his drink. The rescue, you could see that was self-interest. But the saint's not a big sharer. Okay? So sharing his drink, sharing his flask, that kind of that raised my eyebrows. But then, yeah, he starts talking, and we get a great story, the story of the general with a sideways map. And we think that he might have been the colonel that obeyed the orders and sent all the people up to die, but no, he was the general who read it wrong. Is this a true story? I don't know. We've heard some backstory on the saint. This could be some additional stuff. But it's truth or not doesn't really matter, because like Jesse said, telling a story, telling a backstory on himself, little too much talking from the saint, which of course ends up being psychological torture from hell, where then Fuhrer mentions the whole spreading molten magma on the whole buttocks thing. He's got a buttocks fascination, I think, Fuhrer. Too many of those speedballs, from what Jesse said. But if you're not going to jump on the seat, they're just going to put him on it, which is an interesting choice. We're going to force you onto the seat of God. And then what? The assumption is the power is then going to make him want to stay? I mean, he's already refused it once. He touched the throne, and he refused it. He believed in God. He spent these 3 months being tortured in hell with his belief in God. And it sort of pays off. And he's brought back to life in what becomes our Scene of the Week for this week. And that is, of course, our confrontation between God and Jesse. Again, the resurrection of Jesse, very awesome, very cool, always dramatic, pulling oneself out of one's own grave. It's a strong visual moment. But the whole confrontation of finally Jesse up against God, because this is what so much of the show has been after. Jesse has been looking for God, and here finally runs into him in his RV and his motorcycle, all with but again, a great moment. We have God. Yes, I have brought you back up. And Jesse's like, yes, finally, all of my faith. They tried to turn me. They tried to do it, and I believed. And again, that complete appreciation, joy, sacrifice, everything that has happened has come to this point. And it's not his own salvation that he is after here. It's the salvation of humanity. So you don't have to destroy man. And it's like, but that's not in God's plan. And again, that's what was so great. I mean, one, this is the big scene that we've been waiting, this big confrontation. We have Jesse, who does sort of fall to his knees, and for a moment, I'm still thinking that he's in hell. That this whole thing is one final movement, basically because as he's talking about, I did all this suffering, I did all this thing, we've got the music going on in the background, it starts to feel very theatrical, and that's the sort of thing that hell has been doing. So is he really brought back to life? Is this just hell? I think in the end he might have hoped that it still was hell. Well, I mean, not really, because he's back to life, and that's still something. But even after all of that, God's like, nah, I'm still going to take out humanity. And he does it in such a messed up way. I did this. Oh, you were so close. Oh, you almost made it. Oh, all that stuff that you did. Yeah, but it's not. I mean, again, so close. Really? What, because he was tempted by the throne of God? Isn't the whole aspect of free will is you can ignore temptation, you can be tempted and decide not to do that? Is that supposed to be the benefit of free will here? But ultimately it doesn't matter because God's already made up his mind. Man has sinned already. So all of this suffering, all the stuff that Jesse is doing to try and refuse to sit on the throne of God, to try and take God's power, to try and rule upon above, sorry, bug, God doesn't care about. I mean, yeah, he brought him back to life, but effectively God's the one that killed him anyway. So, it sort of even things out. But all that suffering means nothing. And once Jesse gets angry about that, what does God do? He bites his eye out! Ah, you're going to stand and look God in the eye? Well, you just sort of said you're going to wipe us out, so we do have sort of a right to be upset. I think a little bit, tiny bit. Bites his eye out, leaves him to the side of the road with just the message, yeah, I'll see you and bring your friends. And then, I believe, does the whole transport back off to Masada or outside of Masada over by the Barn Grail, where Tulip and Cassidy are. So, just a scene that gives us the moment that we want and gives us the ultimate reason of why God needs to go. Because he doesn't care about your suffering. The suffering just feeds him. Ultimately, he's still going to take out humanity no matter what you do. So, yeah, you want to survive humanity, you got to fight back. And Jesse and his friends are the ones to do it. All right, so at this point, it's pretty much now set up for our big final run. First off, we have, of course, Herr Starr, now a rock star, effectively, announcer and everything, to cheers of the Grail, walking in. He has delivered Humperdoo. God has blessed him back with his looks. He's got his eye, he's got his leg, he's got all of his parts, including his magnificent locks of hair. So, yeah, he's a happy star. He's back. He's got what it is that he wanted, and now the apocalypse has an air date. Meanwhile, of course, we have Tulip and Cassidy having their final scene, what we saw way back, what was that, in 1 or 2? When we did our little flash forward bit of the moments of Tulip and Cassidy kind of coming together. But you gotta understand, they've been through a lot. Jesse is long dead, been months. They're ready to go back and rescue Humperdoo? Stop the apocalypse? Is that the plan? Or was it that Cass was asking? Are we going to rescue him or are we going to kill him? From the sound of it, it looks like they're going to rescue him. Humperdoo's goodness has sort of rubbed off on them. So they deserve to have a night of mutual appreciation, of closeness, of togetherness. Certainly something that Cass has wanted to return to for a very long time. And that's what makes it hurt so much, I think, because especially the next morning you have the morning after scene. Is there discomfort? Is there anything? No. For both of them, it feels right. Cassidy feeling great. So yeah, when there's a knock on the door and you open it up and it's your 3-month dead friend, missing at least one eye, something had to cost, walking back in, hey, I am back. God, that's going to put a damper on it. And I love the moment. Yes, of course, we have Cass and we have Tulip and Jesse getting together, big hugs, reunion. But my favorite is Cass in the background, just watching that all and just ending that moment with that last little was just perfect. Again, more suffering. Sure, is this what God likes to do? Here, I'll send you back and sort of mess up this whole group that's going to be coming after. It's just, there's all sorts of levels of wrong. God really is a messed up guy. And Cassidy gets this joke that life is playing on him. He finally gets that moment of togetherness, that connection with Tulip, even if things are going to end. And still that gets taken away from him. He gets the joke, man. But they're all friends, so you know they're still going to be in it together. All right, just a couple of small things. One, we did have one more coda, of course, to our story, and that is Eugene in his Australian prison cell. A man of respect. Certainly don't disrespect him. Even if you're a fine guitarist playing excellent music, they will still stab you and kill you if they think that you have shown Eugene any disrespect. Just sort of a fun. I didn't know if we were going to actually see Eugene anymore in this series, if we had sort of wrapped him up. I like that they've left him a little bit more, and I love that he still has that innocent approach to it. He sees the guy stabbed to death, and he's just looking at the guys like, oh, come on, guys. Oh, I can't be mad at you. Ooh, do have a guitar now. So, yeah, Eugene's still kind of doing okay. You know someone else suffering here? Jesus. And it seems to be his lot. Sure, he is Jesus, but he really just, he wants to be the Messiah. First off, still, Hitler pushing that, you shouldn't trust it. But Jesus puts in a lot of work. Come on. That breakdancing routine to Tricky, that wasn't that bad. It took some time. There was some work going on there. But even then, he's not wanted. And you know, that just got hurt in the heart. In the little boy heart. Oh, and to bring it all back around and to our trio of cannibalistic desert brothers there, just the moment when they talk about putting the faucet on Starr's genitalia there, they're like, we tried to save what we could, which ended up being nothing. I don't know if that hurts more or not. I mean, there's something gentle and sweet about it, but also there wasn't anything we could do. You can just end it with that. You don't need the tease. No more suffering. All right, so I think that's going to go ahead and wrap us up for now. Like I said, only 2 episodes left until this series is over with. We've got a big confrontation with God coming up, and we got to stop the apocalypse. A lot of stuff to do in 2 episodes, but one thing you can be sure of, there's going to be some serious butt-kicking going on. So, still so much to look forward to, but that will wrap us up for now. Thank you so much for joining me with this review, and as always, if you enjoyed it, please go ahead and hit that like button. Thoughts, ideas, and comments, throw those down in the section below. What do you guys think about? What are you hoping to see at the end of this show? Are we looking at God being taken out? Is he going to have a realization of himself? Is he going to be replaced on the throne? What do you guys think? Throw your thoughts down in the section below. You can always catch me on Twitter and Instagram. I am at Darren Jakes. Please subscribe if you're not a subscriber. We got 2 episodes left with this, but we are jumping into season 10 of The Walking Dead. Not Fear. Horrible show. Season 10 of The Walking Dead coming up beginning of October. Same night we actually have the final season, also season 4 of Mr. Robot over on USA. So some great stuff coming up. Plus, of course, The Mandalorian on November 12th. So don't miss any of those reviews. If you're a subscriber, do that by clicking this button right here. And we'll go ahead and throw up a couple of our latest reviews right here for you to check out. So that's going to be it for me. I'm D, and I'm out of here. Catch you guys next time. Bye-bye.